From ghosting letters to always finding each other on opposite terms, Tiger Woods' relationship with Greg Norman is way more than just rocky. But why does the GOAT hate him so much? Greg Norman and Tiger Woods always had a tense history. Even though they've both been golfing giants for decades, the two don't seem to get along that well. In the very contentious LIV Golf League, Norman serves as CEO and de facto leader. But this isn't the first time he's tried to create a golf league to rival the PGA Tour. On the other hand, Woods is a committed supporter and defender of the PGA Tour, and to him, switching to LIV is treason. A reputed $800 million was offered to him to join the league, but he declined, which serves as proof of his loyalty. Tiger has also been vocal about wanting Norman replaced. He and other die-hard PGA Tour fans would be happy to see the league folded entirely. Woods, Rory McIlroy, and others are serious when they say they see Norman as a major roadblock to the development of golf. Those are some strong criticisms against Greg.
I think he needs to just exit stage left, and he's made his mark, but I think now is the right time to...
But also begs the question, why? Well, the two were never on good enough terms to ever bond in the first place. Yeah, you heard that right. The two have not gotten along well since nearly the day Tiger Woods turned pro in 1996. And Greg Norman even publicly stated that Woods wasn't good enough to be selected for the President's Cup in 2011. He said that he's too familiar with Tiger Woods as a golfer and his accomplishments in the game. But he only selects guys who he thinks are ready to get in there and play, and have performed at the highest levels leading up to it. Greg continued to say that when he was at the top of his game, Tiger relied on one powerful swing after another, and he only had to worry about golf. But as he grew famous, many people started to look for something wrong with Tiger, which he has had to deal with daily, just like any other human being does. After all, every one of us has to take responsibility for what we do in our personal and professional lives. Keeping his mind on one thing is quite challenging for him, and gets worse when he shuts people off. I don't know if Norman was speaking from personal experiences or not, but knowing how competitive Tiger is, he'd never take that lightly, especially since Norman made the claim Tiger won't win any more majors. That's right, Norman made the claim in 2011, which obviously didn't hold, as Woods went on to win the 2019 Masters. Greg did mention that he tried to make up with Woods by extending some goodwill, but his overtures went mostly unanswered. He said that after Tiger won the Masters, he hand-wrote a letter for the GOAT. Norman also drove about a quarter of a mile down his road and hand-delivered the message to his guard. He elaborated that he introduced himself to the guard as Greg Norman and told him to personally deliver the letter to Tiger, but Norman never received a reply from the GOAT. He then went on to say that maybe Tiger just doesn't like him and that he simply doesn't know and has never discussed it with him. But now that Norman has become the CEO of LIV Golf, their dispute has gained even more momentum. Tiger publicly called out Greg and said that he needs to leave LIV and that he was the biggest roadblock in golf's growth. Ouch! Woods' comments weren't all that shocking though. He has won 82 PGA Tour events and has been an unwavering advocate for the tour throughout his spat with LIV Golf. But there was something more at play when he demanded that Greg Norman, CEO of the Saudi-backed league, step down. According to him, that was the only prerequisite before any negotiations could begin between the feuding parties. After all, Woods and Norman have been friends for a long time. Tiger Woods surpassed Greg Norman to become the world's best player in 1997. For a long time, Woods worked with Norman's former teacher, Butch Harmon. One of Norman's former caddies, Steve Williams, had a long and fruitful career with Woods. The two are also neighbors on Jupiter Island. Not to mention, Norman co-founded Woods' home course, Medalist. Even with that, there isn't any sort of meaningful connection between them. Norman once said that the two might get along well because they shared many interests. Plus, both golfers have been in a similar spot in the game. Greg went on to say that he wasn't as successful as Tiger was in terms of significant tour victories, but he was still able to shift the needle, so a good relationship between them seems simple from my vantage point. But it never happened. It's not like the two never had a decent conversation. Norman recalls that he bumped into Woods at the Medalist once, and the two talked about the father-kid golf event. Greg told Tiger how amazing it is to be competing in that with your kid, no matter what age he is. And the fact that Tiger inquired about it gave Norman hope for a new beginning. According to him, the conversation was softer. But even if there was a chance for a new beginning, it's gone now, as their battle turned into a war. Ever since the inception of the Saudi-backed LIV Golf,
whether or not they do that or not, there's no willingness to negotiate if you have a litigation against you.
the golfing world as we know it has been divided, and Greg and Tiger once again stand against each other. Even though his playing future is unclear after yet another illness, Tiger's thoughts on how to end the dispute between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf are crystal clear. Woods has called for the resignation of Greg Norman before any meaningful conversations can be initiated amid warring litigation. Woods made the comments from the Bahamas, where he was hosting the Hero World Challenge. He said that Greg has to go first of all, and then there is obviously litigation against them. In that case, the two parties can have a conversation. The four-time major champion Rory McIlroy also made headlines when he urged Greg Norman to exit the stage, and Woods doubled down on it. The GOAT was repeatedly asked whether the two competing circuits could coexist peacefully in the long run, and he reiterated his previous statement. Woods said, "Not right now, as it is." He continued to explain that the two can't coexist with LIV's current leadership, not with Greg there, and his animosity toward the PGA Tour itself. Woods went on to say that both he and Rory agree that Greg needs to leave the building, and then the two leagues can find solutions to whatever problems they have. But Greg wasn't having any of it. He fired back at Woods and McIlroy by saying they have never bothered to comprehend what LIV Golf is trying to give them. He said that they have never taken the time to sit down and figure out what the business tool is and what it can do for them. Greg further revealed that they haven't even sat down with him or any of the executives. The Australian went on to say, "Don't comment on what you don't see." But it didn't stop there. Greg had a strong message for Woods. He said on Fox News One Nation with Brian Kilmeade that he thinks, it's sad for Tiger. Norman continued to say that it's clear that Woods doesn't decide what we do with LIV, and his being in charge is proof of that. According to Norman, Tiger might be using the PGA Tour as a tool to try and stir up trouble within LIV, or get them to do it. The Australian went so far as to call him the PGA's mouthpiece, who doesn't know facts. I don't know about you guys, but those are some strong reasons for the duo to hate each other. With that said, that's all on why Tiger Woods hates Greg Norman.